Hold on one second. Let's check the sound. Let me see if this is too up. Give me 1 second. Let me just check. Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's too up. All right, then. Yep, that's too up. Yep. All right. Remember, check out Commanding General Hannah's radio show, Black Watch. There's one on Monday. There's one on Saturday. This chair's a lot higher. There you go. All right, check out Commanding General Hannah's radio show, Monday, Black Watch. Also, there's one on Saturday, which is 2 a.m. UK time. I don't believe their clocks have gone forward. So that is currently 1 a.m. our time. Also, there's classes in the States, Monday through Friday. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on YouTube. Just subscribe to all the pages. Also, we have classes here in the UK. Monday, the history class. Tuesday, online class from Manchester. Wednesday, the law class, live from Birmingham. Thursday, the scripture breakdown class, live from Birmingham. Friday, we have the Hebrew class, the Lashon Kodash from London. And then after that, we have On the Ends from Birmingham. Then Saturday, we have the Sabbath service. And then, yeah, so we got a busy schedule. Also, any questions, just type them in the chat and we'll get to them. So any questions you have, just type them in. Hold on. All right, any questions, just type them in and we'll get to them. Give me 1 second. So yeah, any questions, we'll get to them. Hey, we got
Shalom, sir.
Hold on, Ira. Let me just see how this works. Sorry, say something. Let me see if I can hear
you. Shalom, sir.
Sorry, say something now.
Yo.
Ira, is your phone on mute? Because I can't hear you.
La, sir. It's good.
All you have to press, you have to hold the power button.
Sorry, the on.
Nah, hold the power button. Hold it.
Sorry, the on. It's got the battery. Hold on. You might be right, you know.
You'll see something change on that.
Ira, say something. Let me see if I can hear you.
Yo.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Hey, what's going on, Shalom Shabbat?
Shalom, sir. Yahba Hashem Yashai Barakatah.
This is loud. How do I turn this shit down? Sorry, say something again. Let me see how I turn this down.
Yo.
Yeah, say something else. I'm just checking the volume.
Yo, 1 2 checking.
Sorry, say.
Checking out. Checking 1 2.
Yeah, that's 12. All right, then that's 12. Shit, I ain't too technical with all this stuff. But also remember check out Commanding General Yohanna's radio show, which is Monday and Saturday. And as you know, today is Remembrance Sunday. So we're going to go into a few history books and the Bible, and we're going to show you that what black men fought a war for Great Britain and reaped no benefits. They fought a war for Great Britain and wasn't respected, man. They fought on behalf of our oppressors, fighting other oppressors when this battle was never ours. And this is why black people is buried in unmarked graves. Why? They're in unmarked graves because our oppressor doesn't want you buried next to his war heroes, man. He sees what? White men as patriotic and as real citizens of Great Britain. And then black people is just a stain on Great Britain. So what do they have to do? When you die in the war, you didn't get that privilege of getting your body flown back in a casket and a British flag draped all over it. Your body stayed where you died, man. You were dropped dead somewhere and your body stayed there. They would just put you in an unmarked grave. They're just buried there. Oh, he got blown up. We don't know what happened to his remains. That happened to so much of them, man. And recently, you had black people talking about, well, we want to give them a proper burial. Listen, man, these wars was over 100 years ago, man. I mean, what is there to bury now, man? What's the point? You're going to give them a proper burial. Like hundreds of years, like over 100. It happened like 1914 to 1919. Over 100 years ago, and you're talking about a proper burial. Listen, man, you're a bit late. But Ira, get me Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1.
The one in the Apocrypha, sir?
Ecclesiastes.
Salaki, sir, which chapter and verse?
Chapter 3 and verse 1.
Canada one kan. This is the book.
Before we get there, give me some of the allies with World War One. Do you know who was the allies in World War One?
Those was France, England, America.
There you go.
And they was fighting against German.
One sec, we're gonna start with the allies. So World War One, like you said it was what? France, America, Britain. It was Italy, Serbia, and Russia. So it was all those countries who was allies in World War One, meaning they was together. They was on one side fighting against what they call the Axis. So give me some countries which was in the Axis in World War One.
Those was
the Central Powers. So give me some of the Axis in World War One.
Obviously Germany and Poland. Austria, and
Russia was
I don't know anymore, sir.
All right, no, so it was the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria. So that's who was the Axis in World War One. So all them countries that we named, that has nothing to do with us black people, man. Even if we want to claim Jamaica, you didn't see Jamaica there. We didn't see none of those things, man. Even if we want to claim any part of the Caribbean, listen, even if you want to claim Africa, none of them countries was there. But what happened? We got dragged into this war. We got dragged into a war that had nothing to do with us. This war had nothing to do with us, man. We got Trooper Hakian in here. Hey, Shalom, Yahbashim Yashabrakafar.
Shalom, Yahbashim Qatar.
Yahbashim Yashabrakafar.
Yahbashim Qatar.
So now, give me some of the Axis from World War II. Now, actually, give me some of the allies from World War II. So in World War II, the allies was who?
Salaki, you're asking the brother, right?
Anyone who's got it. So if any of the allies from World War II.
Allies with Salaki, sir. Allies with Britain, right?
Allies would be no. Britain Britain was part of the Axis in World War II. So the allies would be Germany.
Oh, Europe, right?
Not all of Europe, because England's in Europe and they was against Germany.
Right.
So you don't want to pull it like that, because people's going to be like, obviously people's going to be like, France is in Europe, Italy's in Europe, but France and Italy was on opposite sides fighting one another.
Right.
So
Salaki, sir, one question.
Go ahead.
Should I look it up, or are you trying to know what I know?
You know what? For time's sake, I'll just give you them. So the allies is Germany, Italy, Japan, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria. So that was the Allies. So it was those countries who was fighting the Axis. And then now, the reason Germany lost the war is because why? Germany was fighting everybody, man. When you look at the long list who Germany was fighting, I'm not surprised they lost. So Germany was stretched, man. They sent too much soldiers to one place. They was fighting this country. They was fighting in that trench. So now the Axis for World War II was America, Great Britain, France, Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, China, Denmark, Greece,
Wow.
Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, South Africa, Yugoslavia. So
That's
imagine Germany and them are fighting all these countries. Why? Because Germany invaded Poland, and then America or Britain gave them an ultimatum that they better not invade this country and whatnot. Obviously, Germany said, yo, we're going to do whatever the hell we want. So then every country started declaring war. So countries who joined together. Now, what would happen is European countries, like say, for instance, you would other countries would get dragged in. Why? Because if Germany wants to attack an enemy, and if that enemy's border is France, they would want to go through France to attack that next country. So that country would be like, you know what? So like, let me see if I can get it actually. Let me see if I can pull up a map so I can give an example. If I knew, I would have brought my world map book. So look here, so you can see. These world maps is no good. These ones are so small. Hold on, let me see. This one. Let me see if I can find a. All right, let me find Europe on this map. All right, hold on. Let me share the screen so everyone knows what I'm on about. Share screen. So lucky that's the wrong one. Hold on. Let me go back to the screen. All right, can you see that map on the screen?
Can't.
Another one can.
All right, let me know if you can see. Can you see the cursor, like where the hand is?
Yeah, can't say.
Can, sir.
All right then. So let's say Germany is here. Can you see Germany?
Can't.
So like, sir, you might want to zoom in on the Europe.
Okay, what about now?
Some more can. You can go some more. As much as you can, I think, sir. Can
Can you see it now?
another one can.
Okay, so Germany is here. Germany invaded Poland.
Mm-hmm.
So Germany invaded Poland, and then what happened? All these other countries came to Poland's defense. Not that they care about Poland, but they saw how Germany was going on, and Germany wanted to take over the world, basically. So what Hitler was telling everyone is, have loads of babies so we can create this perfect race. And then he said, Germany should be running the whole world by the year 2000. So that was his plan. So he invaded Poland. So now, when I said other countries get involved, this is how it works. You see how France is here, Spain's there, and Portugal's there.
Can't.
Can, sir.
All right, then. So if Germany wanted to attack Portugal, now what Germany would do is they would go through France, they would go through Spain. Now the border's here, so Portugal's there. They would set up something here so they could attack Portugal easily. Now, if France and Spain allow Germany to come through to attack Portugal, what would happen? Portugal would then declare war on Spain and France because they're going to be like, wow, you're letting them into your country to attack us. So then they'll be like, we're declaring war on you. So now, with Germany, if Germany wanted to go through France and Spain to get to Portugal, and France said no, and Spain said no, then Germany would be like, okay, then you're protecting them, you're siding with them. We declaring war on you. So between the Axis and the Allies, this is why most of them had to pick a side, because other countries wanted to come in their country to set up a base so they could attack another country. So you get my point?
Constant.
Another one comes. So.
For all these countries, there's borders. So you got Germany there, you got France. So now the Germans, if they want to attack France, they're close by. Now, if they want to attack Spain, they got a little way to go. So what happened? Germany was running some of these regions. Most of these countries, some of these countries here was colonies of Germany. So what happens is after a country loses a war, after they surrender, what happens? They then set up new states and then set up new countries. So I believe Belgium is a new country. So if you look at an old map, you wouldn't see Belgium. Why? Because these places was part of what? Germany. So now, same thing with Pakistan and India. When they was having their little wars, they went to the British. The British got a map and draw the line right down the middle. They draw the line right down Lahore. So when they draw the line right down there, what happened? They became different countries. Pakistan became Pakistan, and India lost all of Pakistan. Why? Because they wanted to be separate based on their fighting and their religion. So now if you had land which was on the other side of the border, you would lose that land. Why? Because the white man just came and drew the line right down the middle of it. So that's how borders was set up. They set up borders that kind of way. So they set up a big border so you can't cross. And same like these countries have their border, so you have to ask permission. Can I come into your country to attack this country? If they say no, then what? You and that country's relationship would be strained. So some countries who favor Germany would say, okay, you can come in our country and you can attack whoever you want. So now you had what? You had Germany here, and then they was allies with Italy. So Italy's down here. So these two is joined together. So then you had Hungary and Romania, whereas Romania's here. So they had all of this region. All of this region, you could say Germany was the top superpower for it. Then on the other side, obviously you had all the other countries. But hold on, let me stop sharing that. Let me go back to the stream mode. Give me 1 second. Let me just put this to it. Oh, my mouse was in there. Hey, Shalom, how about Shamli Shabakafar?
Shalom, y'all bishukata.
Shalom, Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh, Barakatah.
So that's what you had. So now Germany was whooping all these countries, man. Germany was bombing the hell out of all these countries, and then because they was losing, they had to do what? Go to their colonies, meaning the colonies of the Germans did what? Which was African countries, because Germany colonized a lot of Africa. And this is why when you go to Germany today, what do you see there? A ton of Africans. What language do most Africans speak today? Well, did speak, most of them spoke German. Why? Because they was a colony of Germany, whereas the Caribbean was what? Mainly a colony of the British. So what did they do? They had their colonies fighting each other. So they then rallied and got their colonies and then had their colonies fighting each other. So then we was fighting against the Germans and their colonies. The Germans was fighting against Britain and its colonies. Meanwhile, this was never our fight. You know why? Because whether Britain win or whether the Allies win or the Axis win, guess what? For black people, your position is always going to be the same.
Right.
Your position is never going to change. You're always going to be on the bottom. You're always going to be a slave. So if Germany won, the only difference is what? You would just be a slave to the Germans. That'd be the only difference. The British win, you're just a slave to the British. And because they won, this is why we still slaves to the British. So for us, this was never about freedom for black people, because you was always going to be somebody's slave. Same like with the Spanish and the British. So with the Caribbean, what happened? The Spanish had Jamaica first. And then what happened? The British came with about 7,000 foot soldiers and spooked the Spanish, and they was having fights over the country. Now, some black people thought, wow, the British have come to save us from the Spanish. So they stayed there and said, yes, this man's come for our freedom. Now, there was some brothers who understood both these nations as devils, and they ran to the hills and the mountains. Now, they're called the Maroons, the ones that ran into the hills and the mountains. Now, the ones that stayed and thought, okay, the British is coming to save us, they stayed, and then the Spanish gave up the island. And then what happened? We then became slaves to the British, and that's why we speak English today. Because if the British didn't order the Spanish over the land, guess what? We would be slaves speaking Spanish. Because we started off as what? The Spanish ruling over the Caribbean. And then what happened? The British came, took it all over. And this is why in Jamaica till this day, there's still Spanish names of cities like De La Vega. I believe Portmore is one of them. All these Spanish names is still in Jamaica. Why? Because originally the Spanish was there when they went there and slaughtered the Arawak Indians and forced labor. Really, the Spanish was there. Then the British came after. But give me Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1.
Another one, come. This is the book of So like you say it, sir.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 3 and verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time.
So now, to everything there's a season. There's a time for love. There's a time for war. There's a time for peace. And we got hustled, man. We got lied to. And we was told, fight for Great Britain, fight for England, and then you will get your freedom. And we fought for England, man. But we're going to go into a bit of history in a bit, but read on.
So like you said for me, maybe the third brother doesn't know that it's dark up here there with him.
So like I say that again.
The third brother is all dark. You can't see him. Maybe you don't know. I just thought maybe I should say that.
Hey, so like Mama saw Ira wants to see you. Tell him you want to see him.
Sir, not like that. Not like that. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know that was going on. So
listen, we all gonna
I
see each other
thought,
soon.
let me just say it. But I will continue reading, sir.
No, sir.
And a time to every purpose under the heaven.
Time to every purpose under heaven. Hey, for what the quarters are, these mangoes are good, sir. Lucky. Quarters are brought some sweet mangoes. These ones are some good mangoes, sir. Lucky. Go ahead.
Another one come. Verse 2. A time to be born and a time to die.
There's a time to be born and a time to die. So to in life, there's a season for everything. There's a time to be born where what? Everyone's happy. And there's a time when you die where everyone's sad. Now there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. So what happens? You have to go to war to get peace. So that's how life goes. You have to go to war to get peace. And these nations do that. So they go to war and then they get peace by signing peace treaties when they surrender, when they realize they're not going to win. But I read on.
A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which was planted.
Go ahead.
A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up.
There's a time for all these things. Read on.
A time to weep and a time to laugh.
There's a time
A
to
time
weep, time to laugh. And listen, man, our time to laugh ain't came yet, man. We're still in a time of weeping. We're still in a time of weeping, man. Imagine our whole life, all we've known is slavery, picking cotton, being oppressed, going from job to job, being on the bottom of society. Listen, man, but understand this. There's going to come a time when you're able to laugh in the sun, man. There's going to come a time where we able to laugh in the sun and relax and have it easy. But that time ain't now, man. We in a time of weeping, man. I read on.
A time to mourn and a time to dance.
A time to mourn and a time to dance. Listen, man. Our time to dance ain't came yet, man. But that time's coming soon. As these nations prepare for World War III, we getting ready to dance, man. Why? Because we ain't gonna have to be waking up for no 9 a.m. shift in the morning. We ain't gonna be going to the police station for some petty crimes. None of those things, man. All these things is gonna pass. Our time's coming soon. Read on.
Verse 5. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together.
Give me the part where it says a time of peace and a time of war.
Another one can. Verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate.
There's
A time of
to
war.
a time to hate. And with us, we've stayed in this one season of love. Us as black people, it seems like all we want to do is love. And there's a time to love and there's a time to hate, man. How do you love the man that's beating you back, man? How can we love a white God? How can we be oppressed by those very people and we love a white God, man? Why? I mean, only we do these things. We love the Christian church and the Caucasian Jesus. That's who we love, man. We ain't supposed to love that. This is the reason why we're in the condition that we're in. Why? Because we loving the wrong things.
Right.
Just look at it like this. Look at it like this. We listen. The same way we call the police to save us and they end up shooting us. It's the same thing Caesar Borgia would do, man. Caesar Borgia is white Jesus is like another policeman, man. Us calling him for help. He ain't gonna help us. He's like another policeman that wants to put a bullet in your head, man. His job ain't to save black people. Saving black people ain't in his description, man. But we go bow to him and pray to him, and he ain't gonna save us, man. Because saving black people ain't in his description, man. Like all these pictures that they give us, man. Everybody knows about the Madonna and Child, right?
Salakia, Madonna and Child. Salakia, can you just explain that for me, Salakia?
No, sir. Ira, you know what the Madonna and Child is, right?
Another one cancer. That is the mother Mary and the baby Jesus.
There you go. And this is what they give us, man. Madonna and Child. Obviously, the reason it is they call it Madonna and Child because Madonna is what Italian meaning ma for my, and the Donna part is lady, so it means my lady. So that's how Italians say it. So the Madonna and Child means my lady. But that's what all them depictions that they give you during the Renaissance period about the Madonna and Child. They paint all of the Caucasian. So then you see this white baby Jesus, and every time it comes to Christmas, the nativity play, what happens? A white boy plays Jesus.
Always.
A white girl plays Mary. All these things is brainwashing, man. Because they never let the black children play that part. The black child has to play the Herod or someone, or the black child has to play just the stars. Go ahead, Hakim.
Or a flipping animal.
Exactly. You have to play the camel or whatever. That's what you have to play, man. We have to play the camel and all of this nonsense. Meanwhile, they play Jesus in the manger. A white man plays Joseph, plays Mary. And listen, man, the best one you get to play in that play is probably the star. So usually they just put a big star on you, and you play one of the stars. But you don't get to play nothing special. This all comes from the brainwashing of the Christian church and Italians with their paintings. Because obviously, if every time someone mentions baby Jesus, and then they attach to it a white image, every time you think of Jesus, what are you going to think? A white image. So that's why they done them things. That's why they send the Russian icons, got rid of all of those, started painting white images. That's why Rodrigo Borgia sanctioned Michelangelo to paint in the Sistine Chapel and all these pictures and paint the ceilings and do all the architect and so forth. They made them do
Right.
all those things, right? So they could hide all these things from white people, no, from black people. So that's why they do all these things. But
So like
drop that. Give me. Go ahead.
So like, and also to control the minds of black people as well, isn't it? So
Yeah, you.
we never know who we are. We never question, who we are, because they've never even, like you say, in the nativity plays, we're always an animal or a star. We're never Moses, or we're never, sorry, Joseph, or a black lady's never Mary or anything like that. But Chilakia, do you think it's because they're also afraid, Chilakia, that we do
Listen,
we start searching?
listen. They don't want you to know who you are because they're definitely afraid. You know why? Because they know that if you serve the Lord will fight for you. So they have to hide the fact that you're the Lord's people. Because if they let you know that, you might just stop smoking weed, you might just stop selling drugs, you might just change your life. They can't have you change your life because they need to set it up where the Lord's against you. That's the only way they stay in power, by keeping you brainwashed. Because if you found out who you was, what would happen? You would no longer be a slave no more. You would no longer want to go fight in World War I, World War II, and World War III. You would say, you know what? Damn that I ain't fighting for this country. This ain't my fight. So what they do is they brainwash you and make you believe that this is your fight. So then what you find is you're fighting for England. These times England hates you guts, man. England hates everything about you. But when it's wartime, they tell you how much they love you, and if you fight for us, we'll be there for you, and so forth. And then after the war, what do they tell you? Get out our country. After you had limbs blown off, they tell you, thanks for that, but it's time for you to go now. This is what they do. It's like a job. It's like a Christmas temporary job. They treat you like this is a Christmas temporary job. You're just there, temporary. So they ain't got no permanent plans for black people. You're just, we fight for them and it's temporary. We fight for them thinking, yeah, we're going to get this great homecoming. We're smiling in the pictures with our hands like this, with a few medals, with the dressed in the king's suit. That's what they used to call it, the king's suit. Dressed in the king's suit. Understand this, man. Underneath that king suit, you're still a nigger, man. Underneath king suit, they see you as just nothing but still a nigger. No matter how much badges you got. Understand this, man. You've got a badge that you can't take off, and that badge is your black skin, man.
That's right.
That badge you can't take off. So why don't you honor that badge? If you're gonna stand for something, why don't you honor that badge instead of doing what? Honoring this badge where once you take it off, they just think he's just some regular black man. They think you're just some drug dealer, some crackhead, some whatever. Go ahead.
So like you said, they also done that with the coronavirus. Do you remember when they were shipping everybody out, and then all of a sudden they said, oh, they can stay and help with the coronavirus until it's sorted out. So you know what I mean? That's heavy. Just to add to what you said, sir. That's kind of heavy.
That's true. First was going to deport them. Coronavirus came. They needed nurses. Oh, so you can stay in the country for now. But guess what? A charter flight left England yesterday, man. A charter flight left England yesterday at 1 a.m. to be precise. It left yesterday, sending people back to the Caribbean who's never been there. So they always do these things. The game of give me Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3, because we're going to hear about wars and rumors of wars. So when we hear of rumors of wars, we shouldn't go sign up to be in the RAF. We shouldn't go sign up to be in the Navy. We shouldn't go sign up to go fight for our oppressors. We should just hear the rumors of wars and be like, sure, God told us. And be like, well, it's prophesied in the Bible. We ain't supposed to go enter their wars. Why? Because it's not our fight. We keep thinking that this is our fight, and it ain't our fight, man. Give me Matthew chapter 24, verse 3. Whoever's got it can just read it.
Matthew 24, verse 4, Salakia.
3.
Okay. Matthew 24, verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these signs be, these things be?
So now they ask Christ when are these things, because previously Christ was breaking down something to them, so they come to him privately after he's broke it down to everyone. So they come to him privately saying, so when shall these things be? Because they wanted to know, okay then, when are these things going to happen? So Christ basically gives them the drop and says to them, these things is going to happen when you see this and you see this and you see this. So read on.
Khan. And what shall be the sign of thy coming?
So now they're asking, what's going to be the sign of your coming? Go ahead.
And of the end of the world.
So now, when it says the end of the world, this ain't talking about the actual world ending. This is talking about what? The end of our oppressor's world. That's what it's talking about. That's what they want. That's what we want. We want the end of this world, meaning what? The end of his society. Because the word world means what? Age or society. So we want the end of this man's society. So once his society ends, guess what? Our society can begin.
That's right.
Then we can run the earth. So we need these things to happen. So before the end of this man's society, times is going to get rough. And this is what Christ is saying is going to happen before this man's society ends. Read on.
Khan. And Yahweh shall answer and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you.
Says, take heed that no man deceive you. Why? Because what you're going to have is a lot of fake religions popping up, a lot of fake people telling you that they're Christ or they follow Christ, a lot of fake religions and fake philosophies, and a lot of fake YouTube videos that people like to watch so much. A lot of these fake Illuminati videos and all this nonsense. Beware that no man deceive you, man. Read on.
Khan. For many shall come in my name, saying,
listen, man,
I am.
I mean, after Christ, guess what? Many people was coming and they were saying that they're Christ. So when you read the history of it, you will see that there's many fake Christ. They was telling you that they're the one. So this is why the people's asking, are you the one or should we look for another? Why? Because many people were saying that they were Christ at that time. Many people say they were Christ that time, before that time, and after that time. Many people was claiming to be him. So he goes, many shall come saying, I am Christ. Because who done it? That man that made all those people drink Kool-Aid, he done it. That man from Yahweh ben Yahweh, he done it. Many people come saying the Christ. So all of these things, Christ said, beware that no man deceive you. Go ahead.
Right.
Salaki, sorry for me.
Go ahead.
That information you was just saying, did you get that are actually history book, or did you got it from the Bible?
Which part?
That there was many people coming saying that they was the Christ.
Oh yeah, that's in history books also. That's in the Bible and in history books. So it's in both. So what you would see is many people saying there was the one. Many people's coming saying they're the Messiah. So we're confusing the people. And if you weren't 10 toes down, you would be swayed. You'd believe in, well, this man must be the one. We follow him because this man must be the Christ. So many people do it. People even do it till this day. Till this day, many people come and tell you that they're Christ. Listen, those people that come and told you the world was going to end in June 20th, 1st or something. In 2012 or something. Everybody started selling. Everyone sold their houses and their possessions. And listen, almost 10 years later, we're still in hell oppressed. So all these people coming up saying the Christ, they said, don't be deceived. Those people that sold their houses, they was deceived. Christ is telling you, don't be like them. Go ahead, Hakian.
Khan. And shall deceive many. And ye shall hear.
Many, all those people that sold their possessions and believed there was going to be raptured, believed that there was going to be taken up somewhere, they was deceived. Go ahead.
Khan. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars.
And what? And all
and
on the
rumors.
news. All on the news, we hear of wars and rumors of wars. All on the news, man. Up and down the news, we hear about wars, rumors of wars. Every day, Turkey's got an issue with this country's got an issue with that country. Wars and rumors of wars. Then what will happen is France will go drop a bomb in a certain country. And then we're thinking, okay, World War III. And then what happens? They go quiet for a bit. America will do what? Go drop a bomb and on Iraqis and kill loads of them, and then we be like, okay, well, Iraq's gonna strike that World War III starting, and guess what happens? The rumors die down. So the wars and rumors of wars. So you're gonna keep hearing these things on the news, but it's gonna happen. Read on.
But one can't see that ye be not troubled.
Says, see
For
that
all-
ye be not troubled. Go ahead.
Cut on concert. For all these things must come to pass.
And all these things must come to pass. So you shouldn't be troubled. You shouldn't be afraid of these wars and rumors of wars. You shouldn't be afraid for your life, thinking, well, I need to fight for Great Britain because I'm scared for my life. All these wars and rumors of wars must come to pass. And we ain't supposed to fight in no one's army, only the Lord's. We fighting for another race. We done it in World War One, and we didn't learn our lesson. And then we done the same thing again in World War II, and we still didn't learn our lesson. So what's going to happen? Black people still going to try and do the thing in World War III, and it ain't going to work, man. We're supposed to learn our lesson, not to fight that oppressor's fight, man. Why? You fighting for him, you're doing what? You're fighting against God, man. You're fighting against the Lord. It's the Lord's plan to destroy them and bring them down and make them fight each other. You ain't supposed to be involved in that fighting. So by you being involved in that fighting, you're fighting against the Lord, man. What verse you at?
End of verse 6, sir.
Go ahead, Hakim. What was you going to say?
Like I was just gonna say, as that point that you just said was heavy, because what just came back to my mind was when Jonathan, I think that his armor bearer went up and they I think they may have prayed on the Lord, and basically the armies that was against them started to fight each other and kill each other before their eyes, and that came back to me when you just said, the Lord wants not us to join their armies, but wants them to, kill each other. You understand? So,
right. And so let me go one further. Let me go one further. All these armies is going to turn to fight Christ when he returns, man. All these armies, when Christ returns, they're going to leave the fight that they have with each other and turn to fight him. So if you're fighting on the side of Great Britain, you're going to try fight Christ and the angels, man. Because why? You're going to be there in the king's suit and your medals, believing you're fighting for something, believing you're fighting an alien. Because that's what this man tells you, alien invasion. He tells you alien invasion because he's trying to hide the fact that it's Christ and the angels, man. So this is why he tells you aliens drive UFOs and the bad. The thing is this, sometimes in life, what you got to realize is everybody that the oppressor says is bad is probably good. Everyone he says is bad is probably good. This man, the thing is this, to be a hero to someone, you have to be a villain to somebody else. So in order for Christ and the angels to be heroes to us, they're going to have to be villains to our oppressor. So in order to save us, they're going to be our heroes and his villain. So that's why he puts it in your mind, alien invasion, because he wants you to think that the villains, not realizing these very beings is coming to save black people, man.
God.
Why? Because they're our heroes, man. Meanwhile, they got us praying to their hero, who is Caesar Borgia, who ain't a hero for black people. He might be a hero for them, but he ain't no hero to us. Read on.
Salaki, sir, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, the white man has been preparing people through the movies and things like that, very much with that conception, because there is a lot of movies that the world comes together to fight alien coming to Earth or some kind of threat coming to Earth to annihilate the Earth, and they kind of trying to prepare the people to know that when something like that happens in the real life, so they won't be scared, so they stand up and fight against whatever is coming. Because if you see the movie from Avengers where Thanos is coming, if you see the movie the day the Earth stood still, and a lot of these movies, you see them fighting like a alien of out of earth power, and when they arrive, they all join together. Even when they was fighting against each other, they join each other to fight whatever comes to fight the earth.
Right, and this goes to back to what we were saying earlier. The images, the pictures they give you, because they know videos and pictures, it sticks a lot. It sticks with you a lot longer than reading. So if every time you read certain words and there's a white picture next to it, you're gonna believe, well, this is who I'm reading about. So that's why they do them things. How you can drop that for time's sake? Someone get me Exodus chapter 1 and verse 9. But listen, you see, during the war, listen, Germany was mashing England up, man. Tell you, listen, Germany had bombs and everything. So, like, I say that again, Marzo.
Oh, my mic working. All right.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, it's working. So yeah, Germany was mashing England up, man. Germany was blowing up Woolworths. They was flying bombs across the English Channel. They had a thing called, they had pilotless bombs, meaning they would just fly it with a remote from wherever it was. Listen, man, everybody knows Germany's advanced with the technology, whereas the reason they lost is why there was widespread and was fighting too much enemies. So then, after that, what happened? Germany surrendered, and then when you surrender, like, listen, even the oppressor knows when you lose a war, you have to give up something. You have to give up reparations or something, or you have to pay money. They understand that. Give me Exodus 1 and 9.
Exodus 1 verse 9.
Yeah, go ahead.
And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
So now, the Egyptians knew that we was more and mightier than them. So what did they do? They knew that we was more and mightier than them. The British know these things also. They know we're better than them, and they know we're mightier than them. They know if black people come together, it's a wrap. Just think about it. If black people came together from all over London, all over Birmingham, which oppressor could stand before us? Not one, man. So what do they do? Divide you with religion. That's what they do. Go ahead.
You remember the London riot for that guy that was killed, and he just spread across the whole island.
Yeah.
So that is to show you, even within that, when the newsreader was reading, and it's in the Bible that says, when the children of Israel come together, you shall hear them coming from down the street. So when they kill the Indian man, the guy come out and say, you could hear them coming from down the road.
And listen, man, imagine if we was all together, unified, no gangs, no nothing. We said, you know what? We just the children of Israel, no gangs, no postcodes. We don't care about none of that stuff. We're the children of Israel. This world would tremble. So what do they have to do? Keep everyone divided. Just look at it. Just look at one of the roughest men in your ends, and then the other area, and in the other area. And all these men is against each other. Imagine if all these men was on the same team, man. Just imagine this. If all these men was on the same team, no one could do a thing to us. So they keep us divided. So what would they have? This strong militant man fighting this strong militant man. Whereas if these two men was together, this world couldn't stop us, man.
That's
so
right.
they have to deal wisely with us, like what we're about to read. Read on.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they
Let us
want
to. Read that again, Marzo.
Okay, sorry. Come on, let us deal wisely with them.
So they deal wisely with us, man. They deal wisely with us by doing what? Giving us postcode wars, making us hate each other, dark skin, light skin, this area, that area, this accent, that accent. They deal wisely with us. They do anything to keep black men separate. That's them dealing wisely with us. Because they know if we came together, this world would be spun upside down in a day.
That's
so
right.
What do? Give you drugs, man. Because imagine you're big and strong. They have to give you all these kind of drugs to get you weak, man. What do they do? Give you a gun knowing you're gonna shoot black people with it. That's what they do. What did they do? Divide black women versus black men. Whereas with black women and black men, we the only two people who's the same and we divided. You don't hear the Arab woman against the Arab man. But with
That's
us,
right.
they've turned a woman against us. Black
Right.
women saying niggas ain't shit. Listen, they've almost coined the term niggas ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to that garbage Summer Walker album. Nobody else does that, man. But with
Can't.
us, women versus men, black women talking about I ain't getting with another black man, black men talking about I ain't getting with another black woman. So now they do all these things to divide us because why? That's them learning from the Egyptians and dealing wisely with us.
Right.
The British and all these other slave masters have always dealt wisely with us, and we've been too dumb to see it. Dealing wisely with us is what giving us Christianity, man. That's dealing wisely with us. Because Christianity suppresses the warrior that's inside you. Christianity puts out that flame which is inside you, and it turns you soft,
Can't.
it turns you passive, and you just accept everything. You accept all the abuse. They know they can't leave you to do whatever you want to do because they know, well, damn, this black man is strong, is tough, is militant. We can't leave him to do what he wants. So they suppress you with religion, they suppress you with
Lucky.
drugs, they suppress you with weed. Go ahead.
Slaki, just to add to what you just said, which is really heavy, it brought me back to the point, when I first came into the truth, and I realized I was an Israelite, a Jew from the tribe of Judah. I couldn't believe that the powers that be, the powers that be, spend all this money and everything on keeping the truth away from us Israelites. Just to add to your point, that just shows how how conniving they've been and took counsel against us that badly that the whole world now thinks that Jesus is a white man. You know what I mean? And the Jews are white, Salakia.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just to add to that point there. You know what I mean? Trying to hide things from us. You know what I mean? Keeping us in the dark for a reason. You know what I mean?
Read them, Mousa.
Shalaki. Lest they multiply.
Back to Germany owing reparations when they surrendered. So now they had to do what? Give certain countries their independence. So they had to give, I believe, they gave the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Poland. I believe they gave them their independence and the lost colonies. So what would happen is they arranged a meeting. Germany wasn't invited to the meeting, but they had to sign to every demand. So because they know they've got you beat and you surrendered, they make you sign near enough everything away. And then if you don't sign it, then the war's not over. So you would have to give up these things. Meaning, with our oppressor, he understands that when it comes to business and war, it don't just end with everyone saying, okay, my apologies. They understand you have to give up something, man. They understand reparations have to be given. Germany had to pay back countries which amounted to about 284 billion, man. It amounted to like 284 billion. Just imagine how much money black people are owed. Just imagine how much money we should be owed. The Germans didn't have nobody picking cotton, and these other countries stung them for all that money, took their colonies, everything. Just imagine what we owed. Imagine what God's children are owed. Listen, man. Read on, Master.
Slacky. Lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when they're fallen out any war, they join to our enemies and fight against us, and so
now,
get them up out of the land.
These nations feel the same way. They're thinking, what if these Israelites join our enemies and fight against us? So they get us to fight for them. But the thing is this, us joining England's enemies to fight against England is pointless because everybody's the enemy of the Israelites, man. Everybody's our enemy. We need to join one another Forget fighting for England, France, Germany. Forget fighting for any of them, man, because all of them are our enemies. But they dealt with us wisely. They put us out there to die. Meanwhile, they lived. Meanwhile, they sat back. Listen, man, certain soldiers that was driving the ships, they wouldn't allow black people to have guns on the ships. So you're fighting a war and they wouldn't allow you to have guns. Does anyone know why they won't allow the black soldiers to have guns?
Salakia, sir, so they won't turn on them.
Exactly. So they was thinking, if we give all these black people guns, what if they turn on us? So then they almost sent you to a war with no guns on certain ships, which means you're a target, which means you're an easy target. You've gone to war with no weapons, which means what are you supposed to do? Usually on them ships, they had like guns on there that's supposed to sink enemy ships. Now imagine if your ship ain't got no weapon on there, you can't sink a damn thing, man. Listen, man, they that wisely with us. Give me a Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 33. Lucky Potters, I need you to read this for me. Give me page. All right, give me a page 31. You might have to read to 35, but don't read it yet. Just let the brother read Jeremiah. Someone online get me Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 33. It's like I think we need the mic as well.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 23. How canst thou say, I am not polluted? I have not gone up after Balaam.
Hold on. Is that the right one? Hold on 1 second.
33.
No, 33.
33.
Yeah, free.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 33. Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love?
And that's what we do. We trim our ways to seek love. We know we shouldn't be fighting for no England, and we trim our ways to seek love. So we're going to read out of this history book what we done to seek love. Give me that page 31.
Page 31. Defending the motherland.
Can you hear the brother online or?
Canada one council.
Canada one
All right.
council.
All right, most of the
The colonies played a crucial Slovakia played a crucial role during World War One.
It says the colonies played a crucial role during World War One. Now, who was the colonies? We was a colony. India was a colony. Well, the Caribbean was colonies. India was a colony, and some other colonies played a crucial role in World War One. Read on.
As the British clamor for patriotic support resounded throughout the empire, ironically, nations of duty to the motherland existed alongside nations of racial inferiority.
So now they said nations of the motherland. So if you know anything about the Caribbean, they call England the motherland because they believe England is they're the mother country, but a mother is supposed to be loving and nurturing. When has England ever been loving and nurturing to black people, man? Right. England ain't no mother to black people. We've been treated like a foster child in England, man. We've been treated like an adopted child in England. England ain't no mother to us because a mother is supposed to be loving, nurturing. So we should not be calling England our mother country because it's not.
Right.
If a mother's loving and nurturing, and England ain't loving and nurturing to black people, this is a land of hell for us.
Right.
This is a country of hell for us. This ain't no mother country to black people. This country is no mother to black people, man. This is why they kill your babies and throw you in jail.
Right.
A mother doesn't treat her children like that. If this country was our mother, we wouldn't be treated so. So we need to get that thought out of our head that this is our mother country. Read on.
Existed alongside nations of racial inferiority. and the subjugation of colonized people. But while war reinforced racism and the imperial hierarchy, it also challenged the colonial setup and brought about resistance to the prevailing world order. The colonies provided a critical source of labor and materials.
The colonies did what?
Provided a critical source of labor and materials.
So imagine the colonies provided a source of labor and materials. Now you do know in World War One and Two, even children of the colonies was involved, bringing this oppressor water, making them food, donating stuff, giving them stuff for their charities and so forth. We're gonna read it. Read on.
The African continent, which by 1914 was almost entirely under European rule.
Go ahead. Why? Because obviously they colonized all of Africa. Read on.
Became a major theater of war. The first shot fired by a British serviceman is now believed to have been in Togoland.
Go ahead.
By Alahi Grunshi of the Gold Coast Regiment at the outbreak of war. Britain called upon her colonies to help her support the war effort.
Britain did what?
Called upon her colonies to help her support the war effort.
Said Britain called upon her colonies. Britain, they don't even view you as British. You're just a colony, meaning the British do whatever they want with you. So they called upon you to get your limb blown off. Read on.
As did other European powers on both sides of the conflict.
As did other European powers as both sides of the conflict. So what? Germany called on its colonies. Great Britain called on its colonies. So what happened? We're fighting another colony, meaning we fighting somebody else's fight. Imagine I'm fighting against people who's got nothing to do with this war, and they're fighting against me who ain't got nothing to do with this war. So imagine this. I'm meant to shoot some other person suffering because they're colony of the Germans, and they're suffering under the Germans. It's their job to shoot me, even though I'm under the British. Both of us have no place in this war, but we're fighting. Why? Because we believe that these countries that colonized us is our motherland. We believe that these countries that colonized us is our mother. So we fighting somebody else's fight, and we're fighting to seek love from someone who is incapable of love. We're trying to get love from someone who is incapable of getting love, man. The sooner black people realize that, you'll stop loving our oppressor once we realize he's incapable of giving back.
Right.
This love is one-sided. We're fighting for this love, and we ain't had this love yet. This man don't love, and this love is one-sided, man.
Right.
We give him our heart, we give him our money, we give him our love, we give him our soul, our spirit. And what does this man give you? Nothing. What benefits does this man give you? Nothing.
That's right.
This man gives you nothing, man. All this man gives you is a charter flight to leave the UK.
Right.
And then he wants to fight for him. He gives you nothing in return. Read on.
Many men and a fair number of women answered the call.
Many what?
Many men and a fair number of women answered the call.
Even our women answered the call to get involved in these wars, to fight for this so-called mother country. Read on.
Leaving their homelands to contribute as soldiers.
And they left their homelands to contribute as soldiers, man. We should never do this, man. We ain't his soldier, man.
Right.
We soldiers of Yahushua, man. We're the soldiers of Most High in Christ, man. That's who we the soldiers of. We ain't some soldiers of the white man. Let him fight his own battles, man. That's his problem. Whether he wins the war or loses the war, nothing changes for black people. Black people is still going to be enslaved. But read on. I'm trying to fly through this for time's sake.
Sailors, laborers.
They had sailors, they had laborers, read on.
Nurses,
and
overalls.
And overalls were fetching water and doing all of those. Pull it this way. Okay, then. Being in the military, in the white man's army, you do know black people had the same roles as what they had in slavery. They was digging trenches and everything, man. Those in trenches with dead bodies, where you get all sorts of diseases. You get trench foot and all of those kind of things. Trench foot is where what? Your foot goes numb and you lose your toes and all of them things from being in cold, dirty, wet water. So your foot's in cold, dirty, wet water with all the rats and the rodents, and then you end up losing your toes and your feet, and you're in this trench and it's freezing cold. It was your job to dig these trenches, man. You're in there in the muddy water, and when it rains, you're sleeping in a ton of mud and water, man. And then half the time, they'll dig a part where you could lie on there. Half the time, the trench would collapse on your people. They'd have to pull you out by your legs. That was black people's role in some of these wars. Because back then, they fought the war where in a place, basically, they would have a place called no man's land. So on no man's land, it meant it belonged to no man. So you would have your trench here, their trench would be on the other side, and you would have your gun. You would lift up and shoot. They would do the same thing until eventually someone gets shot in the head and dies. Until eventually everyone in that trench dies. So that's what they would do. It was called no man's land. Why? Because if you walked across that land, chances are you would get your head blown out. Because everybody had rifles and that was in the trench. Read on.
Nearly 1.5 million Indian soldiers.
So they even had soldiers from India. 1.5 million of them went. Pass it, let me find what part I want for time's sake, because there's so much that I'm trying to get through. Yeah, give me this page. This one here.
As well as supplying men and women, colonial citizens raised throughout thousands of pounds to send directly to Britain.
Now they raised money to send money to Britain. Read on.
To support the war effort. Barbados, for example, in addition to military support, offered the British government £20,000.
So listen, imagine this. In Barbados, them people are poor. They ain't got money like that as it is. And they offered all their money to Great Britain, man.
Right.
They offered all their money to Great Britain for Great Britain to fight a war. And this is the thing. We think we're part of this war that Britain's having. And really, we're not. Great Britain is just taking your money because it's free. Imagine that, man. They done all of this. Sent their money. Imagine Barbados is poor at this time. Barely got schools. Barely got food. They're rationing. But what could they do? They could raise up money to give to the white man.
Right.
But to build their own schools and hospitals, they can't do that. This is the thing. Black people, we could come together, but we don't want to come together. We would rather give our money to some oppressor than fix our own people. Imagine they raised 20,000 to give to the British, being a poor nation as it is, a nation who was robbed by the British, who's been robbed blind by the British, and we raise up money to give to the British. When the British don't need money, man, they're rich as it is.
That's right.
How are you poor giving money to somebody who's rich? It should be the other way around. When has Britain ever gave money to black people? Never. And they never will. They just take your money. Like every time this nonsense November thing comes around with Podsy Bear, what's it called again? Children in
Poppy.
Need. What's his
Poppies.
name? The bear's name with the one iPad thing on his name Podsy. That yellow bear. Children in Need comes on every year. Is it November? Around November time.
Yeah, around that time.
And listen, black people donate like crazy, man. Listen, man, as a black man, you should not be wearing no poppy, man.
That's
These poppies got nothing to do with black people, man.
Mhm.
What you
That's right.
wear is an ISUPK t-shirt saying that oppressor is the devil, man.
right.
That's right.
That's right.
What we should be wearing, man. Why don't we wear that instead of wearing a poppy? The poppy don't mean nothing to black people, man. They kill black people every single day. And these poppies, they're for white soldiers. They're not for black soldiers, man. Read on.
In money or sugar.
And we gave sugar as well. Imagine black people ran out of money to give, so gave their resources. They gave them sugar. Like our oppressor didn't force them to cut down sugarcane and make sugar. They had some of them working in the sugarcane fields. One man would cut it down. The next man's job in there was it to boil it out and all of them things, man. And grind it and all of them things. Listen, man, this man is the devil, man, and we're helping him. We're giving him too much help. Let him fight his own wars and lose, man.
That's right.
Like what do we care if the Germans win the war? We are slave to either one, man. The only thing that will happen to us is our language will change. That's it. Who gives a shit? So like, excuse my French. Who cares? Either way, we shouldn't be slaves to nobody, because all we do is go from one slave master to one slave master to one slave master. Pass that. Let me see. Let me find the next part for time's sake.
Salaki, sir, I will be right back.
No, sir. Hold on. Yeah, give me this part. From the modern day view. Give me that part. So we're still reading this history book. Go ahead.
From a modern day view of colonialism, perhaps the most obvious question to ask is why subjugated peoples would fight.
So now they're asking the question is, why would black people fight for a country that oppresses them? Read on.
Work and raise wealth for the oppressor.
And they said, why would they work and raise wealth for their oppressor? Even the author of the book's asking, why would this is the question that people's asking? Why would they work and raise wealth for their oppressor? Listen, man, that's a question that I want to answer to. Listen, I need to ask a black man that's been in the army, why would you work and raise wealth for your oppressor? Read on.
Nation in a war that was not of their making.
Exactly. Read on.
The answer is complex. Firstly, it was partly through participation in the war that colonial peoples became fully aware of the racism and oppression which upheld the colonial system.
Read on.
As David Olusoga observes,
Actually, jump to the next page. I'm trying to fly through this for time's sake.
it was during wartime that black people from parts of Africa and the West Indies gained new and first-hand experience of the racism.
So imagine you're fighting for Great Britain, and this is when they realized about racism. While they was fighting for Great Britain, people was racist towards them. You do know that certain black people, while black people wasn't allowed certain positions in the military, they wasn't allowed certain positions in the army. They experienced racism firsthand. Now, you would have thought, you know what? These people are fighting for England, so England's going to respect them for a little bit. Not the British. They experienced racism, man. Read on.
And racial hierarchies that both informed and, for many, justified colonial rule in ways that were not easily foreseeable. When the armies marched to battle in the summer of 1914, the First World War led to the temporary lowering of the physical, cultural, and legal barriers that had been erected.
Pass it. Let me see what part I want. I'm trying to fly through this for time's sake. I didn't know it would take so long. Hold on, let me see. Oh yeah, read this part. Get me. Listen to what Rastafarian's beloved prophet did. Read on. Rastafarian's beloved prophet. It says a prophet of Jah Rastafari. All of this nonsense. Read on.
Jamaican nationalist Marcus Garvey.
Marcus Garvey, that everybody loves so much. Let's see what Marcus Garvey said.
On behalf of the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
So Marcus Garvey was meant to be a leader for black people that claimed he didn't love their oppressor, he didn't like their oppressor. But this is what he said. Read on.
Sent a telegram to the Colonial Office in London expressing our loyalty and devotion to His Majesty the King.
He did what?
Expressing our loyalty.
Listen. Listen. Marcus Garvey sent
a telegram to the Colonial Office in London expressing our loyalty.
Listen, Marcus Garvey expressed his loyalty. Go ahead.
And devotion.
And his devotion. Go ahead.
To His Majesty the King.
He even called him His Majesty. Marcus Garvey expressed his loyalty and his devotion to white people, man. Listen, man. All these leaders that you have is false prophets, man. This is why you need to come to ISUPK, where you will never ever no one in the ISUPK send their devotion and their loyalty to their oppressor, man.
That's right.
We don't have no loyalty.
That's right.
We ain't dealing with no oppressor. But unlike Marcus Garvey, Rastas love so much. Read that part one more time. What did Marcus Garvey do?
Sent a telegram to
Marcus Garvey sent a telegram. Read on.
To the Colonial Office.
To the Colonial Office. Go ahead.
In London.
In London.
expressing
expressing
our loyalty
not my loyalty, but his loyalty.
and
Listen,
devotion
this nigga spoke on behalf of every black person. Our loyalty. Listen, speak for yourself, man, Marcus Garvey.
Yes,
Maybe you're loyal to them, but we ain't, man. So
That's right.
Marcus
That's right.
his loyalty, go ahead,
and devotion
and his devotion
to His Majesty,
to His Majesty,
the King,
Salakia.
the King.
So-
He ain't got no
Mm.
Christ. Okay, go ahead.
Salakia, loyalty and devotion to his master. Salakia.
Exactly, his master. And listen, man, Rastas always talk about Marcus Garvey, this and that. Listen, man, Marcus Garvey was no different to Marcus Garvey was no different to every other black leader that claims they love black people, man.
Right.
The South dream, they sell you out, man. They all do it. They all attach you to some kind of heathen. They always, all their links always goes back to some heathen somewhere. Every last one of them. None of them is direct for black people. Outside of the ISUPK, you will never find a movement which is only for black people.
That's
where we
right.
don't need help, where we don't need their oppressors' love. Everywhere else, they direct you back to our oppressor. Read on any more on that.
and empire, praying for the success.
Hey, he did. Hold on, he did what?
Praying for the success.
This is the difference between us and Marcus Garvey, man. This is the difference between us and Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey prayed for the success of Great Britain. In the ISUPK, we pray for the destruction of Great Britain, man. That's the difference
right.
between Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey prayed for the success of Great Britain. We hate this place, man. We don't want this place to be successful. We ain't praying for none of that garbage, man. Read on.
Salakia, sir.
Go ahead.
And son, the oppressor end up fucking him up, put him in jail, and all of that while he was running for their loyalty, to be their lapdog, instead of fighting them and truly see what was going on.
And now it makes sense to me.
Salakia, sir.
And now it makes sense to me why in England we have a Marcus Garvey Day, because he was selling black people out, man.
Right.
He's praying for England's success, whereas they would never have things in America like a Nat Turner Day, because he was doing the opposite to
That's right.
what the Americans wanted, what the American citizens wanted. Whereas Marcus Garvey, 1 minute is for black people, then he's praying for the success of the oppressor. Read on.
Of British arms,
He was what?
praying for the success.
He was praying for the success, man. No wonder there's a Marcus Garvey Day, because he was selling out black people. So lucky
Right.
one day I'm gonna go over the whole Marcus Garvey thing in depth. I got a few books in the house. Probably give me a month, but I read on.
Of British
Give me a
arms
month. Go ahead.
on the battlefields of Europe and Africa.
Listen, man, this man prayed for the British to win the army. Who does that, man? England is supposed to be enemies. You're supposed to pray they lose the war. But Marcus Garvey obviously prayed for the British to win the war. Any more on that? Let me see which next part I want. Yeah, give me this part. Give me. Give me this part where it says whatever the motivation from where my finger is. All right, give me that part.
Whatever the motivation, the desire to sign up for active duty was evident. However, sections of the British establishment, most notably the War Office, were far from grateful.
Listen, man, black people signed up to the army, and guess what? The British was far from grateful. Why? Because they didn't want black people in their military.
Right.
They didn't want black people in their army. We signed up thinking, yeah, they're going to welcome us. Originally, they didn't want black people in their army. You only got in their army because it was losing the war, and they said, you know what, maybe they might help us win the war. If it wasn't for that, they would never have accepted you. They didn't even want your sacrifice. You're giving them a sacrifice, and they didn't want it. Read on.
And often wholly opposed to black people joining the armed forces.
Hold on, there was what?
Opposed to black people joining the armed forces.
They was opposed to black people joining the armed forces, and this is why black people have unmarked graves. Why? Because they didn't even want you in the army. They didn't want you in the military, so they put you in an unmarked grave. Why? Because they want you segregated from their real war heroes, who is white people. They want you segregated from the people who they looked as who really fought for Britain. This is why you have your little monument in Brixton, and they have theirs in the heart of London, where the Queen goes and puts a wreath on it. Let's see if she puts one on your one this Sunday. Listen, you wait there all day Sunday, see if the Queen comes and puts a wreath on it. Just wait there. See if anyone comes and puts a wreath on it. See if any of them army men come with their 21 gun salute. People walk past yours like yours don't even exist. Yours is pushed away against the wall in the corner, whereas our presses is in the middle of the street, so you can't miss it. Your one's just swept under the rug somewhere. Yours is just in the corner that so much times I've walked past it after camp, and I don't even know it's there. Listen, man, that's where your one is in Brixton, and no one sees it, and no one notices it. No one cleans it. No one puts flowers on it. No one puts a wreath on it. No soldiers come and visit it. Your one is just small in the corner, and that's all you fighting for Great Britain, man. That's the thanks you get. Go ahead,
Lucky, so just to add to that a heavy point that you just said there. That was a heavy point, and that, you know, the root to all that there, that damn church, Christianity. You know what I mean? Not loving us, but you know, all Christians always telling us forget about slavery, you know, and let's move forward and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? And it's Christianity that's made us like take this abuse from our oppressor and not look back and say, you know what, hey, listen, it's wrong that they're treating us like this. Let's stand together and let's work. You know what I mean? Christianity's done that. They messed us up like that with the church.
Christianity destroys black people, man.
So like you said, for me too, I just like to elaborate on what the brother say. Me too. I hate when people say forget about slavery and the past. And me, I always well with my mother. Then when she tell me like that, I tell her, you know what? When my children grow up, I'm gonna tell them to forget about you. See how you like that. Because that's what you're saying to me when you say forget about the slavery, forget about the past. Then when I tell my children to forget about you, don't think about that woman, how you gonna feel about that? Maybe you can open your eyes and see what you're saying to somebody. You know, you're telling me to forget about my forefathers, forget about where I came from. Because you was in the ball sack of one of those people when all of that was happening, and now you're gonna tell me to forget about it.
Exactly.
Listen,
man, we should never forget, man. Never. Ever. We should never forget, because they don't forget till this day. There's still Remembrance Day, meaning they've even got something called Remembrance Day, meaning they want to remember what their soldiers went through, but we must forget what our people go through. Read on so we can quickly.
And often wholly opposed to black people joining the armed forces.
They was opposed to black people joining the armed forces, meaning they didn't want black people in the military. They didn't want black people in the army. Read on.
The reasons behind the opposition to black enlistment were multiple, but in the main, the idea of black soldiers taking up arms against whites.
Wait, hold on. They didn't want what?
Black soldiers taking up arms against whites.
Imagine white British people are fighting white Germans and white Americans and white people from France and white people from Italy. They're at war with each other, and the white man loves his brother enough that he didn't want you black people taking up weapons to his white brother that he's got an issue with. Imagine that, man. They didn't want you in the army. Why? Because they understood it's war, but they didn't want their brother to be killed by the hands of a black man, man.
Right.
They didn't even want, they said, we can't have black people taking up arms against white people. Read that part again.
But in the main, the idea of black soldiers taking up arms against whites, even a white enemy.
Even a what?
Even a white enemy.
Listen, man, they didn't want black people taking up weapons against their white enemies. So imagine the Germans got at war with England, and England said, yo, even though we're warring with Germany, we don't want black soldiers taking up weapons against them. So they seen it as a disrespect. They didn't want black people in their army. And this is why white men during the World War One was transferring Christmas presents to one another, the British and the Germans. Does anyone ever heard of the Christmas truce?
Canada one time, sir.
All right, we're gonna pull it
When-
now.
when they,
No, Sam Cruz.
Ceased fire
Yeah, for the day. Hold on.
in the trenches.
Mhm.
To have Christmas, you know.
So this is the Christmas truce. They're at war with each other. Hold on one second. Let me. Is anyone able to, can you read this or is it two? Or do I need to zoom in?
Can't say.
Zoom in or you can read it.
You want me to read it, sir?
Yeah, from the truce part where it says the truce occurred.
Kadawan Khan. The truth occurred 5 months after hostiles had begun. Lulls occurred in the fighting as armies ran out of men and munitions, and commanders reconsidered their strategies following the stalemate of the race to the sea and the indecisive result of the first Battle of Ypres. In the week leading up to the 25th of December, French, German, and British soldiers crossed trenches to exchange seasonal greetings and talk.
Imagine this in the midst of war. These men crossed the trenches to exchange seasonal greetings and talk. Imagine that war with each other and they exchange seasonal greetings, man. And meanwhile, black people ain't at war with them and they're killing us for free. That should let you know where you stand. They're killing black people for free when you ain't at war with them and they're exchanging gifts with their brothers who they're at war with, which lets you know there ain't no love for no black man nowhere, man. Ain't no love for no black man in this earth, not from Marcus Garvey, not from these white soldiers. Nobody loves black people, only the ISUPK love black people, man. Outside of here, I've never seen love for black people, man. Imagine these like cross the trenches to exchange gifts. Go ahead.
So, Carter, in some areas, men from both sides ventured into no man's land on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day
Head blown off. Read on.
to mingle and exchange food and souvenirs. There were joint burial ceremonies and prisoner swaps.
Imagine these like killing each other and they're having joint burial ceremonies. So the burying Germans and English soldiers together, they come together, even though they're at war. And understand this: you're trying to love them, and they still kill you, which shows that they don't want to love you, or they could. They don't ever come together with you. They don't do nothing with you. They didn't have joint burials for black soldiers. They buried a black man in an unmarked grave.
That's right.
Black soldiers is buried in unmarked graves. Meanwhile, they had joint burials with their enemies. They're burying they're burying German soldiers and British soldiers together. Meanwhile, you as a black man that fought on the side of Great Britain, you got buried in an unmarked grave away from them, which shows how much they hate you, that they hate you more than their enemies.
Salakia, sir.
Go ahead.
If this don't get any black man mad, if this don't get a black man seriously mad in his mind, there's something wrong with him. There's something wrong if you don't get mad and wicked in your mind and start hating your enemy after seeing and hearing this. Because this is enraging myself, Salakia.
Listen, man. Black people still going to be seeking that love. Who had Jeremiah 2:33? But read Jeremiah 2:33 and then we'll continue reading this article about this Christmas truce.
Canada one can. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 33. Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love?
We trimmed our ways to seek love, man. We trimmed our ways to seek love, and this man don't love us back. Meanwhile, this man would have a joint burial with the Germans, and you as black people that fought side by side with him, you get buried in an unmarked grave. Don't trim your ways to seek love because it's pointless, it's useless. This man don't love you back. All of this that you're doing to seek love, this man ain't ever going to love you back, man. Read on Hakian.
Quran Khan, while several meetings ended in carol singing.
They did what?
God. While several meetings ended in carol singing.
These men sang Christmas songs together, man. They sang Christmas songs and done karaoke together, man. Meanwhile, they ain't never doing that stuff with you, but they're doing this with the Germans, speaking 2 different languages, and they knew how to come together and carol sing and do all of those things. Meanwhile, you bent over for the British, and they didn't do these things with you, but they do these things with the Germans. They didn't even want you in the war. Read on.
Karawan Khan. Men played games of football with each
Imagine
other.
this. The Germans and the British and the French played football together, and they're meant to be at war. And they played football together, man. Read on.
Talakia Khan, sir. Karawan Khan. Creating one of the most memorable images of the truce. Hostilities continued in some sectors, while in other sides settled.
These people, man. If this man ain't the devil, man. Imagine
That's
that.
right.
You're all patriotic. You got Marcus Garvey praying for the British to get a victory, and they're singing Christmas carols with their enemies, man. They're playing football together. Meanwhile, Marcus Garvey's praying, man, that England win the war, and they're singing Christmas carols together. Go ahead.
Meanwhile, a black brother can't forgive his brother for a little something that he owes him. You know what I mean? Or a black brother want to kill you because you look at him wrong. Or he want to do you something because you know what I mean, you corrected him, or anything like that. He want to doppy you. Exactly. Yeah, and then you got enemies like this showing love towards one another on a damn battlefield in no man's land where you get your head blown off.
Exactly.
And black people in the ghetto won't even you look at a brother wrong in the ghetto, you might dead. You know, you never know. That's how fucked up that shit is.
Let me see. Hold on one sec. Let me see if we can. Hold on.
Imagine that.
Salakia, while they was fighting a week ago, a week before, some of them kill the other ones, the friends, and now it's Christmas. Now they play football together.
Come on. And sing songs, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Together, you know. And one speak Germany and one speak English.
Yeah.
And they're singing carol songs together.
And a week after that, they fighting again.
Same day, I think. Is it a week after?
Yeah, a couple weeks after they went back to the war. But hold on, give me a second now. Let me share this one now. This is the unmarked graves of black people. Meanwhile, the Germans and the British, remember when it said they had joint burials? So they had joint burials. Meanwhile, they're supposed to be at war, and now you fought side by side with them. And this is you. Read this part for me. This where it says beyond the Western Front. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan, sir. Beyond the Western Front in Africa and the Middle East, the remains of black and brown men who had fought, labored, and died for the British Empire had been treated differently to those of their white comrades.
Listen, although black people was treated differently to their white comrades, this is why you was in unmarked graves. Why? Because they have a cemetery where they've buried all their British soldiers, and it's nice graves, it's well maintained, and you're just in an unmarked grave somewhere. You're buried somewhere, and nobody knows where. Nobody knows where, man. Now, do you know that when black people used to die in World War II, Germans used to drive tanks over them, man, only over the black people? Now, what would happen is, you see, if the Germans would capture a prisoner of war, usually they would just put the white ones in jail, but with the black people, they would just kill them. Why? Because they know there's nobody to fight for black people. They know taking a black life, anyone can just take a black life. It don't mean a thing. This is documented history. I got the book, but obviously we ain't got time to go into it. But read this for me.
Come on.
So lucky, you know what? We might have to go over by 10 minutes if you don't mind.
Don't mind, sir. I don't mind.
All right, we'll go by 10 minutes max.
Although these men had fallen in the same theaters of the same war, they, unlike white soldiers, had been denied the dignity of a known grave.
There was what?
Denied the dignity of a known grave. These men are selected.
Black people fought in this war, and they was denied the dignity of a known grave. meaning they didn't put no name on it. Even some, you know what? In one of the next books, it lets you know that a 14-year-old black boy lied about his age because he wanted to fight for Great Britain that much, and he died at sea. And then on the graves of young children that died at sea, they wouldn't even put their name. They would just put young boy. They wouldn't even put nothing about them. On the grave, it would just say young boy. Listen, man, you was denied a grave. Why? Because even our oppressor understands he wants his war cemetery separate. He wants to segregate the soldiers. That's why he has his war memorial, and you have yours in Brixton, which is so small, and he has the big one that the Queen goes to every single year. They wanted everything separate. Meanwhile, Great Britain's fighting the Germans, and they had joint burials because they respected each other as white men. And you fought trying to gain Britain's respect, and you could never get their respect. Now the time is for us to say F Britain, man, and stop loving this country, man, and stop loving the white man, because he ain't never going to love you back. You're loving something he is incapable of loving. Read on.
Kodwan Khan, some were left in unmarked graves.
Some were left in unmarked graves. Most were left in unmarked graves. Go ahead.
Or even mass graves on the edges of the forgotten battlefields. Or,
listen, man, we was left. There you go. We was left on the edges of forgotten battlefields, which means Remembrance Day. They ain't remembering you because you're left on the edge of a forgotten battlefield, man. Remembrance Day ain't about remembering black men. They couldn't care less about black men. But what they do want to remember is what? White soldiers. Read on.
Or the sites of temporary field hospitals. These men, at least 100,000 of them, subjects of the British Empire, had been treated in death as they had been so often treated in life as the second-class citizens of the racialized empire.
Imagine, look how we treated in life. They was treated the same way. They didn't even get no respect in their death, man. In them dying, they got no respect whatsoever. Basically, we're gonna drop this for time. So I just want to pull something else real quick. Hold on. Let me give you a brother who claimed they didn't find his body. This is a brother that fought for the British. I believe he was from Trinidad or somewhere. Hold on. Let me screen share it. This is a brother by everyone's heard of. You heard of Water Tull, right?
Walter.
You've heard of Water Tull. Read this Water Tull. Can you see it from there?
Can't, sir. Walter Daniel John Toole, 28th of April 1888, 25th of March 28th of April 1888 to the 25th of March 1918, was an English professional footballer and British Army officer of the Afro-Caribbean descent. He played as an inside forward and a halfback for Clapton Tottenham Hotspurs and Northampton Town, and was the third person of mixed heritage to play in the top division of the Football League after Arthur Wharton and Willie Clark. He was also the first black player to be signed for Rangers in 1917.
For time's sake, let me see if I can get to the main part. I just want to get to his death. So he was in World War I, which talks about the unmarked graves. Hold on, let me see if we can find it.
And that's the lucky. And our black women get with these white men, the luckier.
Listen. Tell me about it. But read that part where it says Tull and the 23rd Battalion.
Kodwan Khan, Tull and the 23rd Battalion returned to northern France on the 8th of March 1918. He was killed in action near the village of...
Listen, this man was a beast on the field, man. He fought his heart out for Britain. Now he was killed March the 18th. Go ahead.
Of Faverolles in the Pas de Calais on the 25th of March during the first battle of... What's that say? Bapaume. The early stages of the German German army spring offense. His body was never recovered despite the efforts
Wait,
of
his what? His what?
his body was never recovered.
The reason his
This-
body was never recovered is because he's a black man, and they don't want to give a black man a good burial. They don't want to fly you back to Great Britain with the British flag draped over the coffin because they don't see you as worthy. So where you died, they would often leave you there and put you in a mass grave. And that's why you would have an unmarked grave. They would claim, well, we didn't know who he was, so we just buried him. That's how you would become. That's how you would have an unmarked grave. So, read on.
Quran Khan. Despite the efforts of, among others, Private Tom Billingham, a former goalkeeper for Leicester Fosse, to return him to the British position while under fire.
You know what? For time's sake, I'm gonna have to drop this, but that's the point. Quatazar, give me this one real quick.
God, they're wicked
Give me-
people, man.
The one with the thing. Give me page 51 and 52. Give me that real quick. So now this is after World War One. What we're about to read. So now this is after the war's over. Give me page 51 and 52.
Page 51.
Wicked set of people.
Dean, what? The bottom part. It should be in the thing. The one in the box.
Wow, when we first
So
came,
this is an account of someone that was in the war. Go ahead.
when we first came over here, we were more or less welcomed because we were in the uniform of the king.
So they said when we came over here, we was welcome because we was in the uniform of the king. Go ahead. Now this is after the war. Go ahead.
But when the war ended, when the war in Europe ended and the war in Japan ended,
So when the war in Europe ended and the war in Japan ended, read on.
some of the other people tend to say to themselves, well, you come over here to help us to win a war. Now the war is over, isn't it? Time you go back.
Now, see, after the war, they said, well, you came over here to help us win the war. The war's over now. It's time you go back. This is direct accounts from people that was in the war. Straight after the war was over, white people started to show their true colors. Someone give me that in Ecclesiasticus. Where now they start to show their true colors. They act nice when they need help. And straight after that, guess what? The racism comes right back out. Read on as well.
That sort of attitude, because really and truly, this country doesn't like strangers and they don't like foreigners. Put it that way. It's a fact of life.
It says they don't like foreigners and they look at black people as foreigners. So how is this our mother country when they see us as foreigners and hate our guts, man? This country hates us, man. And it's only right that we shouldn't love this country.
Right.
We should
That's
take
right.
our services, our love, and our heart out of this place. Because you put your heart in this place, and guess what happens? You end up dying and you end up in an unmarked grave.
Yes.
And if you end up surviving, you experience racism anyway. They're racist
Right.
to you, whether you live or whether you die. People
Right.
that made it back from the army got told, well, the war's over, time to leave. People that died just got buried in an unmarked grave. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So how
Right.
about you do something for this country?
Right.
How about you just let this country crash and burn all on its own,
That's
and
right.
while you sit back and don't get involved in none of their garbage, man.
Right.
Read on.
It's a fact of life.
It's a what?
It's a fact of life.
And it's a fact of life that our oppressor's the devil, man.
That's
It's a fact
right.
of life that this man is cunning and conniving
right.
and will
That's
lie
right.
to you and beg and make you fight in his army and then tell you to leave his country. After you're the reason why his country's not blown off the face of the earth
Right.
because you
Right.
fought and protected it, and then he tells you time to leave my country.
Right.
His racism comes right out straight after the war.
Can't say.
Give me the one in Ecclesiasticus. So look, after this, I need one more, then we can go. Give me
Ecclesiastes 12:11.
give me in the next book, Great War to Race Rights. Give me page 62.
Ecclesiasticus 12:11, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Though he humbled himself,
Now give me verse 10.
Salakia. Ecclesiasticus 10, Salakia 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Never trust this man, because this man will have you fight in his war. And then after the war's over, you think he's not my enemy no more because I done a good deed for him. I fought for
Right.
him. He loves me now. And this man will tell you to get the hell up out of his country. This man will say, time for you to get the hell up out of my country, man. Never trust thine enemy. Read that for me, Quatazar.
A mob now. A mob had now formed, and
You
Charles.
might have to put the mic closer because I believe that mic there's not.
A mob had now
So
formed,
now this is a brother called Charles Wotton that was in the white man's army, man. Let's see what happened to him after the war. Read on.
and Charles Wotton a 24-year-old ship's fireman who had been discharged from the Merchant Navy in March 1919, ran from one of the raided
So now
houses.
a mob of white people came and was burning down black houses and black buildings. So this man, being a black man, ran for his life. Why? Because he's the color of the people that they're trying to kill, which is us.
Right.
So he's ran for his life after fighting in the war, bearing in mind, these white men that are chasing, they didn't even fight for their own country. They didn't fight for their own country. But black people did fight for their own country, which showing that black people are more British than British people, man.
Right.
Which showing black people are more patriotic about this country than British people who's lazy all day, that just sits down drinking 6 beer cans and watching football all day, man. That's all Esau does, is sit down and cries over football. Meanwhile, black people are fighting for his country so he can relax on his couch and sit down and drink beer all day. We out there fighting, losing our limbs. We need to stop losing our limbs and let them fight, man. Let them get off the couch for once in their life.
Right.
Read on.
In March 1919, ran from one of the raided houses in Pitt Street. He was pursued by 2 policemen and an angry 200 to 300 strong crowd.
Imagine this. He was pursued by a strong 300 crowd of white people, man. Go ahead. After fighting to protect them in their army, bear that in mind. Read on.
Throwing missiles at him.
Just throwing missiles at the brother, man. Read on.
The policemen caught him at the edge of the Queen's Dock.
So now this man ran to the Queen's Dock, which is in Liverpool. Go ahead.
The mob tore Watton from the police
So the mob pulled this man away from the police. Go ahead.
and threw him into the dock.
And did what?
Threw him into the
So
dock.
they threw this man into the dock, where obviously the water is, which is like a river. They've thrown this black man in there after fighting for their country. You would have thought they would have welcomed him with open arms. Not white people. They're ungrateful, man. Hold that there, but read that precept that you're holding for me, Hakan.
Kadawan Khan, for like iron rusteth, so is his wickedness.
Listen, this man's wickedness is going to come out one day, man. This man's
Right.
blood's boiling while you're in the army with him.
Khan.
And then he just wants to kick you out. He just can't wait for it to be over so he can slaughter you and kill you. His wickedness is going to come out one day, man. Read on Qatazah in that book.
Where he was pelted with rocks
So now they threw him in the docks and then they pelted him with rocks. Read on.
as he swam.
And he tried to swim away for safety. Read on.
The Liverpool Echo reported
Now the Liverpool Echo reported, the newspaper magazine. Read on.
that a detective tried to pull Watton from the
They
water
claimed they tried to pull him out of the water, which is a lie. Read on.
when a stone thrown from the middle of the crowd struck Watton on the head.
So now the first stone from the crowd, a big rock, and it hit him on the head. It landed on his head. Read on.
And he sank,
And he did what?
and he sank,
And he did what?
and he sank.
That's the thanks you get for loving Great Britain, man.
Right.
That's the
That's
thanks
right.
you get for serving Great Britain. They beat you over your head with a rock and drowned you to death, man. This man sank and drowned, man. After he fought for England and kept them safe, after the war was over, read that part one more time about the rock part.
Where he was pelted with rocks
They pelted him with rocks, this 300 mob. Go ahead.
as he swam.
As he tried to swim for safety. Listen, man. Listen, the Germans presented less harm to him in the war than these sick British people, man. Imagine this. We at war in England right now with the British, man. They're trying to kill us and slaughter us and give us drugs and everything. Try and give us all kinds of stuff that ruins our life. Read on.
The Liverpool Echo reported that a detective tried to pull Watton from the water
Read on.
when a stone thrown from the middle of the crowd struck Watton on the head and he sank.
Read on.
He died in the water.
He what?
He died in the water.
Listen, thanks to Great Britain, man. You fought in the war thinking England's going to welcome you with open arms. And this is what they do. They whack you over the head with a rock and you drown in the water. You think because you got on this costume, hold this book to the camera cutters all so they can see the black man in the uniform. This is how black people feel bossy in their army uniform. This is how they feel. Look at him. They feel bossy. Look at him. Got his hat to the side. I feel like he's accomplished something. And then they beat you over the head with a rock and then you die. Is there any more in that book? And with that brings us to the end of the class. We're going to do the security announcements and we're out of here. Clap it up.
This is the ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. there is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 months period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21. Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 to 10. Means 10th in Hebrew, Maya Sha'ara. 10% of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priest, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations.
Feast of dedication, November the 28th on the Sunday. So that is in about 2 weeks' time, right? In about 2 weeks' time on Sunday, November the 28th.
All Akim and Aqua, check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black boots, shirt, pants, headband, and scarf. So that will say a medium. Amajim Shabbat, Amajim Barak, Yahweh Shem Yah Shabrak Katab,
Yahweh Shem Yashua Barakatah.
Yad Yamata. Class dismissed.
Salaki,
I appreciate it.
Salaki, what book was that? Officer Quarters I was reading from, Salaki, sir.
Which one? He had a good three of them, you know. You know about the last
The
one?
last one, Salaki,
Yeah, that one. Great
of
water
race
race
riot.
riot.
Khan, I'm gonna get that.
Had a race riot in had a race riot in 1919. Why? Because obviously our president. Listen, every single riot there is has started off with us being oppressed. Every single one, the Brixton riots, the Mark Gordon riot, the Notting Hill riots, the Liverpool riots. It's all started with what this man oppressing us, and then when we stand up for ourselves, we become the problem.
Khan.
But yeah, but oh shit, I'm on the lifestyle. All right, then. So, hey, Shalom,
So
we'll
what
be here
was it?
tomorrow.
Shalom,
We'll be here
Yahweh
tomorrow.
Shalom. Yeah.
Shalom to
Yahweh Shalom.
Wasn't the lifestyle.
How much for the
Yo,